What's the reason? Okay. So most respected guest speaker of today's session, batch 5, Professor Darin Ekluka, who's currently the Vice President of the XP International Council of Sports Science and Physical Education and a member of the COSMA Board of Directors. She served as charter member of the USA Volleyball Sports Medicine and Performance Commission, Vice President of the USA Volleyball, President of the National Association for Girls and Women in Sport, as well as the International Association of Physical Education Sports for Girls and Women, PASCOE, and Deputy Delegate to the United States Olympic Committee. Luca has been presented with various prestigious awards, XP Philip Neuer Baker Research Award, Leader in Volleyball Award, and have been inducted into the American Volleyball Coaches Hall of Fame, National Association of Sport and Physical Education, NASPE, now SHAPE, Hall of Fame, Commission on Sport Management Accreditation, Cosmo Hall of Fame, in Master Professor category, and Illinois State University of Applied Science and Technology Hall of Fame. She has been selected Distinguished Alumna of the Texas Women's University. Madam has earned 2 doctoral degrees, one in motor learning from Texas University, Texas, USA, another in sport management from the University of Pretoria, South Africa, where Madam now further she's been appointed and continue to serve there. She has a distinguished career in education of 45 years. After several years at the high school, she invested substantial years at Grambling State University and Barry University, where she retired as Dean of the School of Human Performance and Leisure Sciences. Ma'am provides consultation, education, training, and research in sport leadership, curriculum design, social change and development, strategic planning, and publications. Her research interests include women in sport and governance, as well as visual skills in sport. She has published 3 texts, over 120 juried articles, and presented professional research papers on 5 continents. On behalf of the Minister of Youth Affairs and Sports, Government of India, Hello India, a warm welcome to a most dignified speaker. And I need to tell all our participants, the ma'am got injured and her hand, she needs a surgery. And in spite of all this, ma'am, you're such a commendable person. You made it a point to be a part of this session because I know you are the heart and soul of the SPEED program too. So ma'am, a warm welcome to you. I also would like to welcome Professor Claudia from Mexico. I understand the timings are so odd, early morning, you're with us. And Madam Rosa Dickelman, ma'am, a warm welcome to you too. Because it's a surprise for me, I thought you missed the session for today. I also like to welcome Dr. G. Kishore, all my dear PE teachers and coaches to this wonderful session. Over to you, Pranesh. Yes, sir, ma'am, we'll have a session. So I'm not going to speak on that. We're going to have the video being recorded. Let's see.
Set? Yes. Okay. Pranesh, if you would push the next button. Pranesh is going to be kind enough to push the button for me each time, so please forgive us, but I wanted to make sure that this worked, and usually if the host has the slides, then it works quite well. So we're going to take a look at the term glocal. This is already being put into dictionaries, and it's been around for a few years, not too many. So we're going to be on the front edge of the parade for introducing and using this word, because I think you'll find that this is going to be very helpful for all of us. Well, glocal, what is that? It's a combination of global, GLO, and a combination of the back end called local, so the CAL. So when we use that term glocal, it's going to refer to what are we doing globally and how do we apply that locally, and what are we doing locally that can affect what we do globally. So this is a two-way street, not just top down. And I want you to really remember that, because when people ask you, can you make a difference? The answer is absolutely yes. Absolutely, yes. And hopefully by the time we're finished this morning or this evening, we will see how we can do that. And even one step forward is an accomplishment. One foot in front of the other, we will make it. So this is a global information within a local context. And the thing that's most important, in Kluka's opinion, is that we respect human rights. We want to, as the environmentalists have said several years ago, think globally, but act locally. Maybe I should say think globally and act locally. So people are using this term in order to find out how in the world we can make things link. And that's part of our jobs as professionals, to make things link. If you would go to the next one, please. All right, so we have some international forces that we need to take a look at. And obviously you can see these things when you get on the World Wide Web and you do a little Google search or whatever search you're using. And you'll see that really most of what we have begun with in terms of contemporary physical education and sport was devised by UNESCO and its Charter of Physical Education in Sport in 1978. That was the previous century. I think all of us who are on the panel were born in the previous century. If not, you let me know. That said, the children and the people, young people that you work with were not. They were born in the 21st century. So there's a little bit of a gap between those who were born in the 20th century and those who are now being born in the 21st century. So how do we take a look at that from an international to a local perspective? Well, the example for these things is in the UN in 2005. Now look at this, 1978 to 2005. What a long gap we have. Well, it shouldn't be a surprise that we in physical education and sport, we're not terribly fond from the international group. Okay. But finally, in 2005, the UN decided that they were going to make an International Year of Sport and Physical Education. Woo-hoo! And you'll see that this is what I did so that you can see how easy some of these things are. At that time, I was at the University of Pretoria as a visiting professor. And so at that time, this showed up, we did this on campus, and it showed up in the United Nations book on the International Year of Physical Education and Sport. So it says, therefore, be it resolved, University of Pretoria declares its support for United Nations, da-da-da-da-da. Okay, and so all we had to do was to let the university know that it's important for the entire university to be dedicated to this International Year of Sport. You would be amazed how that elevated the status of that department at the university and within the country. Okay? Amazing. Just that one small act, but of course you need to continue it, but that one small act. And also during that time, I happened to be with the American Alliance and at their General Assembly. All I did was to write a motion, somebody seconded it, and AFERD, which is now known as SHAPE, also declared its support for the United Nations International Year. So on those two pieces, it was very simple, if you thought about it, to put that information ahead. So those are ways in which we can have an international force hit the national and or local levels. If you look on the left again, you'll see that there was another revamp of the Charter of Physical Education and Sport in 2015. And then MINEPS with the Kazan Action Plan and the Sustainable Development Goals occurred in 2017. If you go to the next one, please. Push it the other way, Sweetness.
Behind. Next, please, Pradesh.
One more. Thank you. All right, so here, oops. Can you back it up just a little? This one. Oops. I think we're going forward, my sweet.
Is this okay?
Perfect. Perfect. All right, so UNESCO, and this is important to see how these things have developed, in 2013, said that sport is important for development and for peace. And as soon as UNESCO or the United Nations does these things, all of a sudden there comes some financial benefit to those countries who decide to be included within this UNESCO piece. So you as a person at your school or community may not directly be able to access the funds, but people like Dr. Usha and Dr. Kishore and all of the group from the Indian government may be able to. So why did they pick sport? Well, finally, according to the UN, sport and play are human rights. Can you imagine? It took until 2013, from 1948, for them to be able to see what we've seen all along, that sport and play are human rights. Okay, if you go to the next one, please. So we have to look also to see, well, what is MINEPS? And all of these acronyms, if you learn them, the wonderful thing is that you are smarter than many other people. So you want to learn the acronyms so that you can throw them around and see that the world is bigger than just your community. International Conference of Ministers and Senior Officials responsible for physical education and sport. Oh my goodness. Well, there have been 6 MINEPS conferences, and look at all of the places that they were arranged at. And the exciting ones were in Berlin and in Kazan. Those were in Punta del Este. So ICSPE was able at the Punta del Este conference to get the serious look of physical education and sport with a plan to do some things for the world that will make a difference in the Kazan Action Plan. So behind the scenes, you know, you never get, you're never appreciated at home. All right, you're only appreciated when you go out. So ICSPE did behind the scenes in Punta del Este, and now it goes, and so the whole world has benefited from MINEPS, but also with ICSPE behind the scenes, giving them support. If you go to the next one. Here is the Kazan Action Plan. This is the most recent one. If you would like more information about the Kazan Action Plan, just Google it. And this was a result of a whole bunch of people coming together to look at sport, physical activity, and physical education policy. All right, so if we go to the next one. All right, so how are we ever going to link all of these things together so that it makes some sense for us at home? Well, this MINEPS platform for physical education, activity, and sport, known as the Kazan Action Plan, took a look at advocacy. In other words, we have to be our best cheerleaders. We have to be the best people to sell what we have. We know the most. Also, we know the most about the research that's going on. And we are the ones that can help to build for the rest of humanity the capacity to know, understand, and appreciate what it means to be physically active in your life. So the UN has an agenda for 2030. I hope I'm still here in 2030 to see this work. For sustainable development. And so they have sustainable development goals for the world. So India will clearly want to be participating in this. US, Morocco, Brazil, Mexico, and all of the other countries that are part of the United Nations. And so I selected several of the goals that would probably be meaningful for us to in some way take a look at and see what we can do together on the ground in our communities to help make this goal achievable. So let's just take one of my favorite ones. It says number 5, achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. Oh my goodness. Wow. And remember, equality means 50-50, half-half. Equity means proportion or fairness. So you need to ask yourself the question, do I want to be equal or do I want to be equitable? My answer is, it depends. All right, and so you have to decide that, but don't let anybody tell you that it is not possible to be equal and equitable. Because you remember, there's an old, well, you may not know, but there's an old American Indian saying, Native American saying, that says, women hold up half the world. Oh my goodness, women hold up half the world. And if we leave that half of the world and not empower or uplift, we're missing a lot of what humanity can be about. Oh, goodness. Well, here's our chance. Another one. Make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. You know, it's a funny thing. We talk a lot about creating safe environments, and we always think, well, maybe this has to do with girls or women. Well, I have to tell you that boys and men really appreciate safe environments as well. Who in their right mind wants to get attacked? Or who in their right mind wants to get beaten up? Or have their best gym shoes, their Nike shoes taken from them, stolen from them, just because they have a nice pair of shoes. And that happens to boys and men frequently, always the shoes. That's some kind of status symbol. Well, these sustainable development goals, it's important that a framework for people who make policies so that they have measurable indicators and a commitment to make this work. And I'll give you an example for what we do here with all these beautiful webinars. Dr. Usha and Dr. Kishore clearly have made a commitment to making sure that things are working well with the government, well with the university, and well with you in order to make this a reality. How did they measure it? Well, at the end of this session, they will measure it beautifully in a variety of ways to tell us not only how many people attended, but what was important, what was meaningful, what was not so meaningful, all right, so that they're evaluating in some measurable way. Very important. Otherwise, we don't know how we're doing. Next one, please. All right, so this is another way that we can figure out what we need to include in the lessons or the sessions that we do. And in English, American English, a lesson plan would refer to people who are teachers. A session plan would refer to people who are community coaches, okay? But basically it's the same thing because everybody is still teaching, okay? I looked at over 200 lesson plans, session plans, and I use the internet to do that. So these are from all over the world. And this is my best thinking on what ought to be included in a solid lesson plan. So you'll see each of the categories, and you'll notice that I put in the United Nations Development Goals. Which ones are we going to address in this lesson or in this session? And it might be as simple as taking the one for girls and women and empowerment, and you say that in this lesson today, you're going to make sure that you have special consideration and special drills before or after class, as an example, if someone needs it. And if you make that specifically to girls, because some of them may have more difficulty at the beginning than some of the boys, then you've addressed the goal. Okay, and so the part that's also important is that after every single lesson, and I know this takes time, but once you get this going, it's not so bad. Evaluation, what went well? So you put down, okay, this drill or this phrase, whatever, they really learned something from this, okay. And how might it be changed? What needs to be changed? Oh, this one was a terrible thing to use. They all thought it was silly. All right. And so because when you go back to this lesson or session plan in a year, you will not remember what worked well and what did not work well. So you want to remind yourself in order to be able to use something similar again. Will you please go to the next one? Thank you. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the 2030 UN agenda for sustainable development. And so I found a lesson plan that talks about heart rate experiment, if you will. And so you'll see that the PESOLs, which are the development goals, okay, are listed there. And then it says, now, what are we going to do? Well, the students will demonstrate how to use a handheld heart monitor. Now, if you don't have that, then you put in there, they will demonstrate how to take their pulse at their throat or whatever it happens to be. But by adding that piece to the lesson plan, that gets you to really focus on the fact that you are contributing on a daily basis to make the world a better place. Okay, there is no doubt about it. You can share that with your students, you share that with your parents, you share that with community leaders, so that you can show them that you are on a daily basis contributing to that community piece of making this stuff global. Okay, if we go to the next one. So how will we promote community sport globally? Well, one of the things that we can do is if we go and have a look at what now is the nation of India, what are the national goals for sport and physical education? Add those to see how closely are those related to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Okay. You might also, if you want, put on that lesson plan a place where it says, all right, these are the goals for the nation, so that you can see how what you're doing affects the nation and how the nation then affects what's going on in the United Nations. You can also link those sustainable development goals with what your students and your athletes are learning, and let them know that they should have a conversation with their parents, with their grandparents, with their families, so that they feel connected to the world. So it's easy for parents and administrators to then assess what's going on and what's being met. And this is extremely important. So if you can you play that YouTube thing at the bottom there, my sweet? Let's see what happens.
What they learn from here, they take it outside. This center has given us a lot of hope for the future.
Sport, it brings even the warring communities and bring the peace. Even if it's my brother, when we are during the competition, you are my brother when we finish.
You can really communicate across all languages in the language of sport. And it should be used as one of the levers to move us towards peace.
Sports bring all people from all different worlds. Even though people may have a different way of thinking, people gather under one banner. That's equality, universality, mutual respect, and harmony.
Sports unites us and makes us stronger as human beings. It builds friendship. It's something I'll carry with me to my grave.
sport can empower women in the world, and girls doing sport, I think, can help them have the right confidence.
They're the big sporting moments that persuade young people that not only was that exciting, but it was again inspiring enough to want to go and take up that sport.
Sports can give you an awful lot. It teaches you how to respect others, teaches you about friendship, teaches you about the rules of the game. We can use sports to make a difference.
I've learned about how to, take losses gracefully, and that's been a great feeling.
Sport really is about education. It really is about culture. It's about that global understanding.
When you pick up children early in life and teach them the right values, then you have the real leaders of the future. Then you begin to have the spirit of Olympism and how you can get those important values that will help you grow.
Sport brings people together, regardless of their background, regardless of their race, regardless even of their language. Sport is always about building bridges.
Thank you, Pranesh. I just want to build on this just a little bit. You notice that what was said was sport can build whatever. I want you to think really carefully about this, because the beliefs and the attitudes that you have will make a difference in how the people you work with perceive the value of sport. You know that there are tremendous issues, especially at the professional level, about ethics and about the goodness or badness of sport. They talk about values. They talk about all of these things that we can build bridges. That is all absolutely true, except that it's up to each one of us to do our part to make global sport, the whole piece, something that is a positive builder rather than a negative builder. And I say that to you because the way in which you frame the value of physical activity, physical education, and sport will rub off on those who you contact. So if you come looking at the fact that people are not perfect, that they're inherently bad, that they can do nothing that's going to be good, then you can imagine what will come not only from your mouth, but also from your actions and the environment that you create for sport locally, but also how they view things then globally. Remember that at the international level and at the professional level, that has become sport as entertainment. So we sit passively and we watch those things. But what we in physical education and in community sport are about is really the individual. The person has the opportunity to get all of the positive benefits from sport. So as we promote community sport locally, we need to connect that to what will make the world again a better place and the people living in it better off because they have participated in sport and the goodness of sport. Pranesh, do we have another one? I think we do. So thanks. Namaste. Now, did I spell that correctly? You know, Dr. Usha, I saw somebody write it with a T-H-E. Did I make a mistake?
Namaste is okay. It's not tea, it's te. It's okay, fine, good.
So
Namaste.
it's okay. All right. So I apologize if it's not quite right, but I love this little guy. And I wanted to share that with you. And thank you so much for being attentive with all of these thoughts about how do we promote community sport locally.
Yeah. Okay. Darlene, thank you so much. Indeed, it was such a wonderful session. And since there are certain things you may have to repeat, I think, do we have happy to go back to these slides? Will that be better when certain questions asked?
I think we should be okay. If not,
Okay.
we'll plod ahead. I think we should be okay.
Okay. Now, when we talk of this, because you started with, here most of our teachers have a problems in terms of the language. There is a slight problem. So there are certain terminologies which they had difficulty, like when you talk of the you came up with the sequence of International Day, International Charter of Physical Education initially, and then you came with MINIPS. So I feel as once again, if you could just explain, I could explain that to them in Hindi. What exactly is MINIPS? MINIPS. So sorry, I put up the question to this. What is MINIPS? And could you just explain about the first part you said is, how do you think, you said at the local level, what impact and how could the global impact the local? Could you just explain that first, initially?
There is you can make a link between what is in the Kazan Action Plan, that is the most recent piece. Do you want to translate this as I speak?
Yeah, अभी मैं आपसे बोलना चाहती हूँ सारे पार्टिसिपेंट से कि ये जो मैडम है, मैडम ऑलरेडी हेड कर रही है काफी, क्योंकि आप लोगों को लगता होगा ये क्या है, इसमें क्या क्या एब्रिविएशंस दे रखे हैं, तो कम से कम इतना मालूम होना चाहिए कि मैडम का जो टॉपिक था ग्लोकली, एंड ये जो लोकल हम किस तरह से कर सकते। तो मैडम ने खजान एक्शन प्लान के बारे में बताया, मिनिप्स के बारे में, तो मिनिप्स का ये सब जानकारी जरूरी, क्योंकि फिजिकल एजुकेशन का कौन है जो इसके बारे में जो डिसीजन देते हैं और वर्ल्ड लेवल में क्या होता है उसके बारे में जानकारी। खजान एक्शन प्लान था जो रीसेंट था, तो बहुत लोगों को काफी मेहनत करनी पड़ी फिजिकल एजुकेशन बदलाव लाने के लिए। तो आप लोग सोचते हैं इसकी जरूरत क्या है, लेकिन इसके लिए जरूरत थी लोगों की आवाज सुनेगी, उसमें मैडम की भी आवाज थी कि कैसे फिजिकल एजुकेशन यूनाइटेड नेशंस में बदलाव लाना पड़ा, उसके बारे में जानकारी है। तो आप कम से कम याद रखेंगे कजान एक्शन प्लान 2017 की जो एक्शन प्लान है उसमें और भी लेटेस्ट आ चुकी है जहां बोला है कि फिजिकल एजुकेशन काफी मैंडेटरी है। यस मैम प्लीज।
Right, so we find the piece in the plan that we are interested in, and we say, I'm going to present this lesson. What in this lesson can be linked to that goal? What are we doing in that lesson that can be linked to the goal? So my example had to do with heart rate. All right. So let's assume that we're going to check the heart rate here rather than do the monitor. Okay. So in the Kazan Action Plan, it will have a goal that says to improve the health of children or improve the health of the nation or something like that. So by them learning to to take their resting heart rate and then doing activity and taking their heart rate again, that is a part of how you would contribute to the health of your students. So we've taken a big goal and we've applied it to what we're doing. When someone asks, we simply say, we had this that then linked to that. You can also say that we have data, if you make sure they have something to put the data on, to see how they have improved throughout the unit or whatever it is that you're doing. That's just one example, but Dr.
I'll just translate here. Thanks, darling. मैडम ये बोल रही थी कि जब भी हम लोग लेसन क्लास लेते हैं तो उसमें एक लेसन प्लान बनाया जाता है, तो लेसन प्लान में जरूर अपना एक ऑब्जेक्टिव इस तरह से डालना चाहिए जो कि किसी जो गोल, अभी मैडम ने खजान एक्शन प्लान होगा, नहीं तो सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल। सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल उसका हिंदी में मैंने कहीं लिखा है, आपको बता दूंगी उसमें क्या गोल था। फॉर एग्जाम्पल मैडम बता रही थी हार्ट रेट, क्योंकि एक गोल होगा कि बच्चों का स्वास्थ्य अच्छा हो। स्वास्थ्य अच्छा होने के लिए हम बोल सकते हैं कार्डियो रेस्पिरेटरी फिटनेस अच्छा हो, वो होगा शायद गोल। उस गोल को पूरा करने के लिए हम लोग ने अपने लेसन प्लान में दिखाया कि हम बच्चों की रेस्टिंग हार्ट रेट ले रहे हैं। हम शायद यहाँ से कैरोटिड आर्टरी से लेंगे या हम लोग रेडियल आर्टरी से लेंगे, लेकिन हम हार्ट रेट मॉनिटर नहीं यूज कर रहे हैं। इसके द्वारा हम कहीं लिख के भी हम इसका रिकॉर्डिंग कर सकते हैं, जिसके बाद जिससे हमारे लेसन में बताया गया कि हम अपने लेसन के द्वारा जो गोल उन्होंने जो बनाए रखे हैं उस गोल तक पहुंचने के लिए हम कर रहे हैं। ये हमारी हमारे जो कंट्री है या हमारे देश के लिए सिर्फ नहीं, ये हमें अंतर्देशीय लेवल पे उनका जो गोल है उसके साथ लिंक हो जाता है। तो मैडम बता रही थी कि इस तरह से अगर हम करेंगे तो हम सब लोग अपने अपनी तरफ से अपना शेयर डालेंगे, जरूर हमारा एक स्वस्थ राज्य हो सकता है अगर वो गोल पे डिपेंडेंट है। तो इसलिए कम से कम ये कई लोग पूछ रहे थे कि हमें क्या जरूरत है जानकारी, हमें जैसे आप कम से कम IOC हर चीज की जानकारी हमको चाहिए होती है। अगर हमने फिजिकल एजुकेशन में स्पेशलाइज किया, हमारे लिए बहुत जरूरी है कि आपको मालूम होना चाहिए कि हमारी हिस्ट्री क्या है और हमारा आगे का फ्यूचर क्या है, हमें क्या करना चाहिए, क्या हमारी कुछ आवाजें जो आगे तक पहुंचनी चाहिए उसके लिए हम क्या कर सकते हैं। ये सारी जो गोल्स हैं, बहुत लोग इसके पीछे हैं, जिससे कि फिजिकल एजुकेशन को जिस लक्ष्य पे पहुंचाना है वो लोग कोशिश कर रहे हैं। मैम प्लीज।
And just to, I was really thinking, some of you may ask, why are we worried or concerned with taking whatever's happening here and make sure that we have a link? We must constantly remember that the people we are teaching, the children, their world is going to be one that is international. And so we must continue to build the better world by looking what is happening internationally and making sure that we're linked to that world so that all of us have an opportunity for a better future. I'll give an example, quick example. This is not political, this is from the heart. We just elected a new president in the US. The old one took us out of the World Health Organization. What a dumb thing to do. The world now needs those international pieces with people being members so that the world can become a better place. The new man now, thank goodness, we already are back into World Health and a few others. Yay! And a few others so that we become part of the global community. Just as I sit here, I believe that I, as a person, as a professional, as a visiting with you all that I am a person who is a global person, who thinks about what happens here will affect us, and what happens with us will affect that. So I hope you can translate that.
Sure. सबसे पहले मैं आप पार्टिसिपेंट को बोलना चाहती हूँ कि मैडम जो है, मैडम डार्लिन मैडम वॉलीबॉल की अंतर्राष्ट्रीय लेवल पे खिलाड़ी रह चुकी हैं, अभी भी फिटनेस पे है, एकेडमिशियन है। आप लोग जानते नहीं है मैडम कौन है। इस इवन तो ये होने के बाद ही मैडम जिस मैडम का जो अभी जो ये बता रही थी कि एक लिंक बना के हम अपने बच्चों को किस तरह से लाना चाहते हैं। हमारे बच्चे जो है, हमें उनके जो फ्यूचर के बारे में कैसे सोचना है कि एक अच्छा जगह हो, उनका भविष्य अच्छा रहे। तो उसके लिए हमें जो बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस, दुनिया में जो सबसे अच्छे प्रैक्टिस है उसको लेके, जिससे कि हम आगे अपना जो फ्यूचर जनरेशन है उनको वो सब दे पाए। इसलिए अभी मैडम यूएस प्रेसिडेंट की बात कर रही थी कि सबकी जो सोच होती है ऐसा होनी चाहिए कि सोच, कैन आई जस्ट फिनिश, हमारी सोच ऐसी होनी चाहिए कि हम लोग माने एक दूसरे को समझे, हम लोग एक पूरे दुनिया को एक दुनिया जैसा माने, और जिससे कि जो भी एक दूसरे का, अगर यहाँ अभी आप सोचेंगे हमारे यहाँ रोजा मैडम ऑस्ट्रिया से है, क्लॉडिया मैडम मेक्सिको से है, क्लूका मैडम यूएसए से है, और ये सब होने के बाद मेरे को तो ये हम सब एक फैमिली जैसे लग रहे हैं। हमेशा लगता है कि हम सब एक फैमिली जैसे हैं, जिसके एक दूसरे का हम मुश्किलें हम समझ सकते हैं, और उससे हम किस तरह से सुझाव देके एक अच्छा दुनिया हम बना सकते हैं उसके बारे में। तो मैडम बता रही थी कि जो पुराना जो प्रेसिडेंट ट्रम्प रह चुके हैं, वो तो उनकी वजह से यूएस को WHO वर्ल्ड हेल्थ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से बाहर आना पड़ा, तो बहुत ज्यादा मुश्किलों का सामना करना पड़ा है। तो इसलिए होता है कि जब हमारी सोच बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी होती है, और हमें इस तरह से जो बेस्ट प्रैक्टिस माने जो अच्छी प्रैक्टिसेस है दुनिया में, उसको हमारे में लाना चाहिए। इसीलिए इस तरह का अंतरराष्ट्रीय जो जानकारी बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी है। यस मैम। एंड फॉर द पार्टिसिपेंट्स, मैडम के पास जितनी अवार्ड्स हैं आप सोच नहीं पाएंगे मैडम किस लेवल, किस हम जो बोलते हैं यूएस हॉल ऑफ फेम में, वॉलीबॉल में अंतरराष्ट्रीय लेवल पे बहुत अच्छे लेवल पे आ चुकी हैं। आप लोगों को किसी को जानकारी नहीं है, लेकिन मैडम हम लोग 5वें बैच तक मैडम हमेशा हमारे साथ रह चुके हैं, हमारा साथ दे रही हैं, और वो चाहती कि इन भारत के लिए जो भी अच्छा हो वो अपनी तरफ से कंट्रीब्यूट कर रही है। ये मैं आप सबको बताना चाह रही हूँ, क्योंकि ये मुझे पता है हिंदी एक लैंग्वेज प्रॉब्लम है, लेकिन ये है कि अभी आप में से काफी लोग हैं जो जानना चाहते हैं हम इसका आगे क्या करना चाहिए, हम स्पोर्ट्स और फिजिकल एजुकेशन में और क्या कर सकते हैं, हमारे बच्चों के लिए हम आगे और क्या करा सकते हैं। इसके लिए हमें एक बहुत अच्छा प्लेटफॉर्म मिला है। यस मैम, प्लीज मैम, could you speak something about MINEPS, please? MINEPS, because they may not know what MINEPS is.
The easiest thing is to just remember that MINEPS has to do with ministers of governments who are responsible for sport, physical education, physical activity, that they come together in the world once every 4 years. Their responsibility is to create some kind of opportunities and action plans, which is Kazan Action Plan, that will help us as a world move physical education, sport, and physical activity forward. However, the Punta del Este one that was in 1991, something like that, 1999, something like that, the president of ICSPE at the time put together the background information and presented it to those ministers. This was the first time that the ministers allowed anybody to come speak with them from ICSPE about creating really quality physical education and sport. So I'm sure that there were others, but I know that ICSPE ran around at the meeting very specifically and provided them with information and other guidance so that they could make some good decisions. Because remember, if you are only able to make decisions based upon what you know. That's true in your house. That's true in the world. So the more information, true information, good information that you have, the better it will be for you to make a decision. So this has gone on, and in 2017, I think it was, they did the Kazan Action Plan. That is now something that each minister in each country has the opportunity to, as we would say, push down to all of us the kinds of things that are important at the international level. Our job is to translate that into great actions that will then make a difference with those goals. So this is big because the world now has figured out how can we act, but each of us at home, we have to figure out what that action will be, and that's where we need to link things.
Okay, thanks, darling. MINIPS करके अगर आपने सुना होगा, मैडम बता रही थी। सबसे पहले ये बताना चाहती हूँ कि हम लोग भी फिजिकल एजुकेशन, हमारी जानकारी बहुत लिमिटेड है, क्योंकि हम सिर्फ देखते हैं कि हमारे आसपास जो हो रहा है उसके बारे में जानकारी। आप किताब ही देखिए, उसका भी बहुत लिमिटेड इंफॉर्मेशन है। लेकिन अभी जब से इंटरनेशनल प्लेटफॉर्म को मिला है, हम भी सीख रहे हैं, मैं भी साथ सीख रही हूँ। तो अभी मिनिप्स माने जो मिनिस्टर्स होते हैं गवर्नमेंट में, जो लोग फिजिकल एजुकेशन, फिजिकल एक्टिविटी, रिक्रिएशन डील करते हैं, वो मिनिस्टर्स एक मीटिंग में भाग लेते हैं और सारे मिनिस्टर्स ऑफ अलग अलग राज्य की सब एक साथ आके वो लोग फिजिकल एजुकेशन स्पोर्ट्स के लिए एक क्या नया हम विजन दिखा सकते हैं, उस तरह का विजन मीटिंग हुआ है। इसके लिए एक्सपी ने बहुत ज्यादा कंट्रीब्यूट किया है। 2017 कज़न एक्शन प्लान भी मिनिप्स का ही था, और मेरे को लगता है आगे से जरूर इंडिया की तरफ से भी, भारत की तरफ से भी हमारे मिनिस्टर्स होने चाहिए, क्योंकि वो लोग हमारे पास लाते हैं जो दुनिया में चर्चा किया है, जो इम्प्लीमेंट किया होता है, और बाद में वो अपने भारतवर्ष में या अपने अपने कंट्री में लागू करते हैं। हमारे ऊपर होता है हम उसको एक्शन में इम्प्लीमेंट कर रहे हैं। अगर वैसा करेंगे तो हम बोलेंगे कि हम वो जो गोल उन्होंने प्लान किया था, उस गोल की हम उस पे पहुंच पा रहे हैं, हम उसको उस काम जो गोल दिया उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करने की शुरुआत कर रहे हैं। तो इसके लिए बहुत जरूरी है। और देखिए, हम लोग सोचते हैं कि जस्ट हमने जो फिजिकल सीखा है उसमें बहुत सारी लिमिटेशंस हैं, बहुत कमियां हैं। उसके लिए बहुत अच्छा मौका मिल रहा है, जहां हमें जैसे अभी आए डार्लिन मैडम या रोजा मैम या फ्लोरिया मैम से हम संपर्क में आए हैं, इसलिए इससे हमको बहुत ज्यादा फायदा हुआ है, और भारत के लिए भी बहुत ज्यादा, क्योंकि हम आगे काफी कुछ प्रपोज करने वाले हैं जो बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस हैं। So I think darling, it's been so wonderful, and questions are ample, because I don't blame them for it, because since they were not very familiar with that. And
no worries.
No, it's been such a wonderful session, because the best part was in the lesson plan. Could you just say one? You said is to include these sustainable development goals in the lesson plan. And you told me it's not just the lesson plan. When you plan anything else, you told me, so how did you link that? Can you just speak about that, please?
Yes, all of us have an environment in which we work. And this can also be when you're doing volunteer work, you're still doing work in some way. So it's important for you to communicate always that we, even though we are in our local club, in our local community, in our local class, we are part of the world, that other things are going on as we progress. And so by, again, being able to prove that we link to the world, it's not just, how do I say, paperwork. It's not just filling it in. It's letting others know, example, our department heads, our principal, our chancellor, whoever up the line, that they realize that this is important. Example, in a school, you could easily start it in physical education by adding that one thing. Make sure that you mention to someone else above you that you're doing this, because those developmental goals are not just for physical education. They're for the entire world. So there could be someone who is teaching history or chemistry or whatever it is. They could also be putting that into their goals and speaking with the children about the understanding that they are not going to be only citizens of India. They are going to be citizens of the world. You do not any longer have to move from the place you are to somewhere else. Look what we're doing today. Dr. Usha is in India. Dr. Claudia is in Mexico. Dr. Dickett Miller is in Austria, and I sit in the USA. This is going to be fantastic. Wouldn't it be terrific? Another example. I'm at a primary school. The students know how to use electronics, all of the internet, everything. So I say to Dr. Claudia, because I now know her, I said, Claudia, I have 25 students in my class. Do you have a class that has 25 students or so? Then we exchange email addresses from the students, their personal ones, from the students to my students. The next thing we say is each of you will do a journal. Okay? And the journal can be electronic journal, writing journal, however you want to make it. And now we ask questions for both of them to talk about and to learn what is going on in Mexico and what is going on in the US in physical activity, sport, etc. Now suddenly we have a physical and emotional link between two young people, and we can do this if we could, if we wanted to, we could do that all over the world. And then we say, okay, you develop a video, and it's on physical activity for those in wheelchairs. And so Claudia's group does theirs and videos and shows how to do it with the Mexican music, which is beautiful. And then I come and I do the same with maybe some cultural things that look like what we do. So look, and then you participate, each group participates in order to have physical activity. So suddenly we now went from having nothing to having children link together, to having them work through technology to show each other what people do. And then we participate in what all of those people do. What a great, I get all excited about it, because what a great opportunity, you see. And it could be done in all sorts of other classes with chemistry. And I mean, your creativity is so important to push this, to make this all work. And if we cannot figure out how to make it work, it will fail. You've seen it so many times. Here's the information, nothing happens with it. So it's up to us to do the important work on, in a way, how do we change the world? I say one person at a time. All right, so I don't know, translate, do your best.
You gave a wonderful idea of exchanging of this. I think Because Darlin always comes out with something. I think it's a wonderful idea it came out with. The students from different and then bring it out. It's one of the best examples. But I think, as you rightly pointed out, how do we convince सारे जो PE teachers को ये बोला कि आपको शायद समझ में आ गया होगा, क्योंकि हम अगर ये जो for the information, Darlin, our new education policy, we are introducing from this academic year, and there are a lot of changes, and which has the SDG. This 2030 it's already coming, so education policy is all changed, and now India is looking forward to improve in terms of quality education, and I think physical education is no less. तो आपको मैं बताना चाहती हूँ, अब नई एजुकेशन पॉलिसी में सस्टेन डेवलपमेंट गोल्स ऑलरेडी आ चुका है, और ऑलरेडी हमको भी एजुकेशन तक पहुंचना जरूरी है. इसलिए हम क्या कर सकते हैं, हमें कई चीजें लानी चाहिए जो एक फिजिक्स, केमिस्ट्री, मैथ्स टीचर लाए, लेकिन हमें उसे पीछे रहना नहीं है, और हमको औरों को समझाना है कि ये हमारे में है. वो सिर्फ एकेडमिक्स के तौर पे आ सकता है. इसलिए ये जानकारी बहुत अच्छा दे रखा मैडम ने कहा कि अगर हम बच्चे यहाँ से ले, आप स्कूल के बच्चे यहाँ और दूसरे राज्य से अगर ले, और दोनों को एक ही एक्टिविटी में कुछ काम करने दिया जाए, इससे हमारी म्यूचुअल अंडरस्टैंडिंग और एक साथ जो रिलेशनशिप है, नेटवर्किंग इतनी ज्यादा बढ़ जाती है, उससे बच्चे भी बहुत ज्यादा सीख पाते हैं. So that's I need to thank Dr. Darlin, because that's a future for India, and actually physical education is lacking as compared to education. Because education in terms of that, be able to reach to some level. But in terms of physical education, I think we really need to bring about a change. And thank you so much for this wonderful, not only explanation, for opening up the path, showing us the path, and you're holding on to our hands to say, to take a small step one by one. Professor Claudia, for your remarks, please.
Thank you. Darlin, I have had the honor to hear you a few times, and each time you find a way to surprise and motivate me to work hard to make change that impact not only me, but everyone around me. You show us today how we can make a different world through the sports and physical activity. And I have read a question for the chat that says, what are we doing here? And what we are doing here is making the difference to create a better world. Thank you so much, Darlin.
Namaste.
Thank you so much.
Gracias.
Because it's been always nice to see you. And you're very special because you come on something very unique out of it. You try to pick something somewhere and bring. That's great. Thank you. Madam Rosa Dickett Miller, thank you so much for your gracious presence representing Ipaskaway. Our Rosa, President makes it a point that a representative of Ipaskaway has to be there. That's why Madam Rosa.
I'm so happy.
Madam Rosa, yeah, she came in because Darlin is there. Oh,
Thank
Rosa,
you.
for your remarks, please. For your remarks.
Thank you. Good afternoon from Austria. Thank you, Darlin. It's always a pleasure. I hope you hear me. It's always a pleasure to hear you, and you hear your great speeches. This was very important contribution, how to transfer global issues to local activities. And you gave all very good examples, and I would have asked the same questions as Usha, how to transfer it to physical education. But one question could maybe also be, as you are the vice president of the most important international council of sports science and physical education, what would you suggest for PE teacher education and coach education, or maybe for community sports, as you've told before?
Right, thank you for your kind words. And I hope I am understanding the question correctly. Are you looking for me to respond to teacher education, community coach education, and what can ICSP do?
It would be interesting as well. Yes.
Okay. here's the exciting piece. There are, and you have to have internet access. I wish we could do it another way, but the internet is really what we need to have. When you go in and you Google whatever the organization is, example, ICSPE, you will see that there will be some resources and some free resources. All right, you want to look at those to see if there are some projects or programs that would be of interest to you. Those resources have to do with how do I do this at my level? And how do I implement whatever it is that's going on? So as an example, we have had several grants. ICSPE has gotten several grants from a variety of governments and the European Union and so forth. We've gotten Erasmus Plus, which again is a European-based thing, but there are many things that are happening on the development of lesson plans for sports that may not be real familiar in places. So those are located there. But we also are planning for the very near future, in other words, this next year, to have a series of webinars. And these webinars will be designed to explain how to do whatever it is. I think Rosa Dickert-Müller at some point will have you involved in something that will do with women and girls and safe environments. But I'm not in charge of that, so you are not being asked now. But there will also be one, and this one I really hope will be interesting to many people. How to combine sports science with community coaching, or sports science with physical education, so that we can connect or begin to link what do we need from the sports scientists to be translated, in a sense, to something that we can use every day, and then it be based on science. So those are some things that are being planned by ICSPE. But in the meantime, there is no reason why you in your school or in your community cannot get together with someone from college, university, that knows something about science, all right? And so as an example, you could bring someone in who teaches physics. Physics is a really good one to get them to present something that is meaningful, using the body and human movement to show biomechanical principles. Okay, it's a really nice combination. In a past life, we had a coach and a sports scientist. He happened to be a sports psychologist, but knew many things about biomechanics. So the two of them got together, put the presentation together, and then went and presented it to community coaches. There's no reason why that cannot be done. Dr. Usha, your area is physiology, correct? All right, so Dr. Usha in her community, if she went physically, could do many things with community coaches or physical education teachers. Makes no difference. And of course, you include the link that goes to what's going on at the top level. But also by linking coaches with sports scientists or physical education teachers with sports scientists, then you get I think, the best of both worlds, in that I've got the theoretical scientific understanding that underpins what it is we're selecting to use to get people active. Just as an example, you know, in the old days, I wish I have to use my left hand, I'm right-handed. So, but in the old days, we used to tell people, okay, lie down. This is my head. This is my feet. Now, bring your feet up. Bring your feet up. That was a mistake. That was a mistake because we're killing the people's backs. All right. So this is biomechanics. This is physics. This is, or you could come from physiology. You still have the understanding that if they're still doing this and they're complaining that they got back problems, you're helping have the back problems. So instead, I guess I got to do it this way. Instead, then you bring this up and then so you shorten the lever and then do the rest because then it makes sense so that you don't ruin the back. Sometimes when we look at things that go on the internet and we get ideas from there, it's the wrong ideas. So if you're using the internet to gain your knowledge, you want to watch, and this takes time, but once you do it, you look at 3 different things. Always look at 3. 2 of the 3 may be right, but that's what you want to go with. And if 3 of the 3 work, then that's for sure what you go with. Because remember this, when people write textbooks, they're 2 years behind the latest thinking because it takes that long to write the book and to publish the book. The internet is fast, but people who put things up may not be the best things and know more than you do. So that's why if you look to IXPE and you look to ePiscovay and you look to all the things that Dr. Usha and company have been doing, this is the latest kind of research to translate into what's going to work for us. Be safe, be smart, be efficient, and be effective. Okay, I don't know if that helps, but that makes sense to me.
So, darling, let me just translate this. Rosa ma'am, Rosa मैडम हमारी सेशन लेंगे बाद में. मैम ने क्वेश्चन पूछा था कि IXPE की जो वाइस प्रेसिडेंट है वो मैडम लुका है. तो IXPE फिजिकल एजुकेशन के लिए क्या कर सकती है, फिजिकल एजुकेशन पी कम्युनिटी के लिए. सबसे पहले बोला गया कि उसमें कई आप उसके IXPE के गूगल करेंगे तो आप उसमें देखेंगे उसमें कई रिसोर्सेस हैं. उसमें कई रिसोर्स जो फ्री मिलता है. उस रिसोर्सेस में अगर आप जाएंगे तो उसमें कई लिखते हैं प्रोजेक्ट एंड रिसर्च. तो आप में से कई लोग रिसर्च करना चाहते हैं, कुछ प्रोजेक्ट लेना चाहते हैं, उसमें ग्रांट्स या फंड्स हमें कई फाइनेंशियल असिस्टेंस मिल जाती है, लेकिन वो डिपेंड करता है कि हम किस तरह का प्रपोजल बनाते हैं. इस तरह से इनके पास बहुत सारे फंड्स हैं पूरे दुनिया में से, क्योंकि टॉप मोस्ट बॉडी है जो IXPE है, फिजिकल एजुकेशन का बॉडी है. तो उसमें वो लोग इस तरह से फंड्स देने का किस तरह से हम ज्यादा प्रमोट कर सकती है, IXPE करती है. और फ्यूचर में काफी आगे जाके काफी वेबिनार्स भी करने का इनका प्लान है. ये लोगों को मार्गदर्शन कराती है और पूरी दुनिया में किस तरह से फिजिकल एजुकेशन आगे बढ़ना उसके बारे में बताती है. लेकिन अब सबसे पहले मैडम ये बता रही थी कि हमें अपना जो स्पोर्ट्स साइंसेस की नॉलेज बहुत जरूरी है. कैसे स्पोर्ट्स साइंस को फिजिकल एजुकेशन के साथ जोड़ा जा सकता है. और आपके स्कूल में फिजिक्स टीचर होंगे या केमिस्ट्री होंगे या बायोलॉजी, उनको अगर हम जाके समझाए या अगर हम लोग आपस में अगर डिस्कस किया जाए, जरूर आप देखेंगे फिजिकल एजुकेशन क्लास. फॉर एग्जांपल मैं एक्सरसाइज फिजियोलॉजी पढ़ाती हूँ, तो मेरे को लगता है मैं बच्चों का जो बॉडी है वो ज्यादा अच्छा समझा सकती हूँ, क्योंकि उसके बारे में ज्यादा जानकारी हमको है, क्योंकि हम बॉडी की तरह से कर सकते हैं. इसलिए हमें ये दोनों मिलाना चाहिए. इससे क्या होगा, एकेडमिकली हमारे पास काफी नॉलेज भी होगी और हम बच्चों को सिर्फ नहीं बोलेंगे करने के लिए, क्योंकि उस करने के पीछे उसका कारण क्या है उसके बारे में जानकारी देंगे. अभी मैडम बता रही थी कि बहुत पहले था जहाँ हम लोग लेट के सीधा उठने बोलते थे, उससे बैक में स्ट्रेन पड़ती थी. लेकिन आजकल हमको पता है कि अगर सीधा उठेंगे, जिसकी बैक की प्रॉब्लम है वो सीधा उठना सही नहीं है, उसको चेस्ट के बल में लेटने से दैट इज गोइंग टू बी मच मोर इफेक्टिव. तो इस तरह से हमें बहुत सारी जानकारियां मैडम दे रही हैं. तो मेरे को लगता है मैडम के पास तो इतना सारा है, क्योंकि मैडम इतनी ज्यादा एक्सपीरियंस्ड है और हम लोग बहुत लकी है कि हमें मैडम मिल चुकी है. इसकी वजह से हमें इतना सारा इन्फॉर्मेशन मिल पाया. सो थैंक यू. रोजा मैडम भी बहुत एक्सपीरियंस है, मैडम का पेपर आगे होगा सेफ गार्डिंग, किस तरह से बच्चों को सेफ गार्ड करना है. स्पेशली हम लोग जो बोलते हैं प्रॉब्लम्स है बॉयज या गर्ल्स के लिए आजकल बहुत ज्यादा भारत में भी चल रहा है, तो उसके अगेंस्ट हमें क्या क्या और जिसके बारे में मैडम हमारा 27 को जो क्लास है वो मैडम का क्लास होगा. रोजा जिक्र में मैडम का क्लास होगा. So I think it's been so nice. So we're about to end the session. Pranesh, can we have the feedback, please?
Wait. Could I say one other thing, please?
Sure.
Very shortly, I think in early February, there's going to be a
Just wait, please.
publication.
Wait. Please close
There's
it.
going to, no worries. There's going to be a publication in the African Journal of Sports Science, right? And now the whole thing is a feature on physical education, etc. And they asked me to write a thing looking at IXPE and its contributions. So it's called Footprints of IXPE, okay? And so I will make sure, because they're sending it to me in a digital copy, so I'll make sure that you get it so that you can share it somehow with everyone. And because I don't know if it's going to be accessible to everyone. It's a jury or a reference document, but I think that would be helpful because it talks about Africa and South Africa, but there are many things, if we look at the bigger pictures, that we can use throughout the world because they're principle or fact or science based, and then we adapt it for our area, whatever makes sense for us. Is that okay if I do that?
Thanks a lot. Thank you. It would be great. So
Sure. Okay.
सबको आपको मैडम बता रही कि मैडम का एक जर्नल अभी फरवरी में आने वाला है, तो जरूर हमारे साथ शेयर करेंगी, क्योंकि IXPE का जो कंट्रीब्यूशन है वो मैडम उसके तौर पे लिख रही हैं और वो अफ्रीकन इसमें बेस्ड है, जिसमें बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस होंगे, वो आपको बहुत फायदा होगा. तो मैडम जरूर सबको मिलने का नहीं, लेकिन मैडम ने बोला है कि हमारी PE कम्युनिटी के लिए मैडम जरूर शेयर करेंगे. सो मैं मैडम को भी धन्यवाद देना चाहती हूँ और आप सबके बिहाफ पे. So Luca, darling, I think you're such a person. I can't believe it, with a smile on your face and with your hand. You've been dancing with the hand every now and then. I was worried things should go worse, but I know you're a real teacher, because a teacher can't stop teaching. And
that's
get
right.
everything, and that's the best part which I happen to see you. So on behalf of the Ministry of Youth, Western Sports, Government of Khelo India, I need to thank our most dignified speaker. And this will be a memorable session because, as I said, a person with a hand, with an injured hand coming and taking a session. So ma'am, hats up to you for this wonderful session, because it's been a great learning for us. And we are I feel as in physical education sport, we are at the stage of infancy. I have to accept it, because what was taught maybe about 50 years back, we still continue with the same, but things are changing. And this peak community coaching platform with the international speakers has given us a big impetus and boost, because we are trying to take up the best practices. And definitely we expect something to be given to the minister, and hope that for the next minutes, our minister also should be there as a part. This is what we look forward to. This is what's the way out? How is it possible? We really keenly look forward to that, because you introduced something to us which we never knew. And even if people knew, we just attend conferences, but we don't know what it is. There are a lot of people who attend international conference for the past maybe 30, 40 years, but to bring and implement it, that's a change. So I really need to thank you, because as I said, you have sowed the seed and it's slowly sprouting, but still it's okay. It'll grow in times to come, maybe another 10 years time or so, things will be different. So thank you so much, Professor Darlene, for such a wonderful session. And I'm sure the session is going to be a memorable session. On behalf of all the participants, a big dhanyavad. We talk of dhanyavad. That is thank you. Dhanyavad to our most loving, and I say the light of my session speaker. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Rosa Dickett-Miller. Thank you so much, because I never knew. All of a sudden you came up. It was a surprise for us. But then I think it was Darlene who pulled you. Yay. And I never knew that Darlene had this magic power where she could bring somebody from Austria in. So thank you so much, Rosa. We'll look forward to your session, because again, your session is a very important session. And I think IOC has come out with some course. So I thought even I am keen in attending, but I don't think I'll get access to attend such a course. IOC is coming up with a course for this sexual harassment. They're coming with some short-term courses. And they're going to introduce it very soon. So I think Rosa should be the first person to get into that and see how best it can be done. So thank you so much, Rosa. And we look forward to your session on 27th. Hope you find time to be in this. And it's a very important session. And same is the case here. And we also have a PE program for women teachers. And we definitely want your support in this because it's all to do with women and girls. And this is by the Ministry of Women and Child Empowerment. It's another ministry, but in collaboration with the Sport Ministry is wanting to do something for women and girls in India. So thank you so much, Rosa, again, for your, I need to thank Madam Rosa because the president of IPASGIVA is the one who's actually brought in and they make their presence always there because again, it is the IPASGIVA is really contributes a lot besides his XP. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Dr. G. Kishore. I know even though it's not well, he definitely listened to what it is. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Dr. Sanjeev Patil, Mr. Pranesh and Hari and all my dear PE teachers. Teachers, आप सबका बहुत धन्यवाद, शुक्रिया. मुझे पता है बहुत टायरिंग हो जाता है, लेकिन आपका यहाँ हमारे लिए आप ही है इस प्रोग्राम की जो हार्ट एंड सोल है. तो इसलिए आप नहीं होते तो ये शायद प्रोग्राम होता भी नहीं. So I need to thank each one of you, and we'd like to have a feedback, please. Pranesh. Pranesh. अभी आप जरा feedback भरिएगा, please. Actually, it's still getting in because there's some technical issues which are happening. So this is only the second day the session is on. And that's one problem that will be happening.
If that's the only challenge, you're doing very, very well.
Because what happened was most of them are from different class parts. All these teachers, they need to take the regular classes. These teachers have their sessions too, besides attending to the sessions here. So the PE teachers are doing a wonderful job. They're very good job. Our teachers are doing it.
This is
and
good.
I only pray that in 2022, Darlene, we'd like to have a conference. I'm just planning which month should I propose. I'm going to tell Vimal sir for it, that to have a conference in India. And in collaboration with if IXP can tell us, so if they can permit, if they can help, let us know, so we could have it in India. And only that I need to decide which month could be okay. Is what, if you could suggest, I can put a proposal accordingly. So
wouldn't it be a wonderful thing to have IPASGIVA and IXP jointly come in for the visit? Because
it's okay, but in collaboration, but if that's possible. But I think Rosa was telling me you can ask IXP. I don't know about that, but you should guide us. I'm not very sure.
Yeah, we're having conversations this week. So IPASGIVA leads the way on this, that's for sure. And I think that, you know, they're a member organization of IXP and they've always worked well together. So I see no reason why the president and the executive board would not be excited about having this as an opportunity. My goodness, what a wonderful offer. So you are so kind, so kind.
We hope that by then COVID settles and I'm just ready for 2022.
Yeah.
Before I retire, I'll retire in the month of June. So before I retire, I wanted this to happen.
Well, yeah, we certainly want you to go out on a high note.
That's right.
To go out on a high note. Absolutely.
Yes. So, darling, we'll end up the session. So thank you so much, darling, again, once again. So take care. We keep praying. We're going to get better. And there are a lot of about 435 partners all together. So
fantastic.
They all are there. Come on, no pains, perfectly all right. You're going to recover faster. That's what we all pray for.
I have the surgery on Wednesday, and after surgery, everything will get better. Guaranteed.
Sure.
Wednesday will not be easy. That it'll be fine.
Sure. So we'll just
all right. Well, thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye. High five.
Bye.
Okay, Rosa. Bye-bye.
Let's see here. This is not working. So if it's not working, let's see what does that mean? That means I need to change the battery.